Okay, I'm going to feel this out the best I can. So this one is in lieu to the response of I just did one for promotion boards in the Army, and I didn't want to necessarily seem like the Sarge there or whatever he was. I didn't quite catch it in the beginning. He gives the promotion board, so you're going to have to go up to him and discuss that. You might have to watch that information in there about what it is for the focus to dial in of their library. And it's just, you're going to have to notice that on the recon, because it's kind of about the dungeon master in here. And why do I think this is good? Well, you have to remember, from the place of not being set, you're in a dungeon. Yeah, I mean, firstly, you have to go to somebody for a promotion board. It's like you don't have the leverage and you don't understand it, so that doesn't make you a DM. It's just right off the hop. Now I'm trying to feel out, is this a safe situation for me to start to gauge into this situation? Because that's regular recon, regular situations, MOSs of a heat vex guy, of 11 Bravo, of, I forgot what the signals ones are there. It's like it might be like a D24 or something like that. Or anyways, D12 mudslingers, whatever. You know, if we can arbitrarily set that model up inside here, let's see if I can find a decent one. I have no clue. We're just going to hit this wild. I like his work. He did a really good one on a lawsuit for, I think it was him that did the lawsuit for Dragonlands going against Dungeons and Dragons on a morality license, a morality clause. They wrote the book, had the contract written, the book was written, and then they canceled the contract and lost the lawsuit, Dungeons and Dragons, against the writer of Dragonlands. It doesn't seem relative here, but why might I pose that question to you? Can you find me a parallel universe where that exists in the real world? You're the one that's got to write the pain train for the defense attorney or the district attorney, the attorney general at this point in time, because they are congruent with each other under constitutional law about how physics works, or at least in the applied model of that universe, how an MOS of a heat vex guy would go. You know, it's realistic to say the energy of those things has very general common systems. But through there's some secret passages around here that maybe if you knew Salty Island well enough in Dungeons and Dragons, that those values might be congruent in some way.
I'm the creator of the How to Play Dungeons and Dragons 5e series, and also the 5e Class Guide series. After learning how to play, I think it is time for you to step up to the plate and pick up the badge of the Dungeon Master. This video series will teach you how to become one, using the 5th edition rules. But the principle of dungeon mastering...
I'm not leveling up here. This is the one. This is usually after it. Now, I would assume most of it, if you come to me right here and I'm just going to pretend in this, I'm this guy administrating how to teach you to level up. How to take your character card, MOS of a detailed this, and try my best to trebuchet this with a catapult, or whatever else we have access to in the command directive of C-22s and F-22s, F-35s, Abram tanks, and anything else that we roll for stamina on in terms of the war board. The only difference is this is played off a little safer without actually somebody's combat book coming up later that probably shouldn't. I'm not saying you shouldn't. That might be a great evaluation come to the board meeting later on, that you actually had the moral integrity, moral license to understand that weaponry correctly. Just understanding the battlefield and knowing where the target is the difference of hitting 100% at 600 yards, Sarge, with a 3-inch red dot cat toy chasing around it and trying to gauge that approximation of windage. Right, so I love the motivation. I want you guys to understand this. It's a bit about, I want to control the momentum of this conversation, equally like you might be up, down in emotional contagion for what this board may represent. In this case, this could be a potential nasty thing for America on certain regards. There are a lot of times when I could benefit this by playing the Dungeons & Dragons bar at the bar. That's going to be working with a PFC to square it off, comparatively to hitting the book to Doomslayer's home base over there on Mars. I mean, 9.8 meters per second or 9 meters per second given derivative X.
So this is sort of the first
DL.
part of your life.
So let's take you from first level character up through this traumatic experience mechanically now that we've talked about it story-wise.
Okay.
Well, this is still just the black room, not necessarily the interrogation room. I generally like my best to set it up on lodge meetings, but there's no reason it couldn't be arbitrarily positioned at the barracks at any free time when we have the space, derivative L over derivative T. And we roll for stamina, because it gives us a multi-matrix of trajectories of who would do it. Let's look at the muon in the room right now. If this was a board or a college class, who understands right now? Most of you, I expect, given the winkety blinks on your facial equation, to being the dungeon master inside of here to say, I'm not going to make this easy. I'm going to plan you at a C grade. Why C? Because it's causal. Half of you are going to fail this, and half of you are going to pass this, and that gives me the ability to kind of range the average of A students and give them a compelling argument to say this is why you're A. The difference in students that form F's, D's, and C minuses, if any other variable on that curve, black body radiation, would correlate to the wobbles. God, the devil, derivative lambda over derivative T, I don't care. But that's what that number would represent in a three-phase motor like that. Derivative time, derivative lambda. This guy, her, the dungeon master. And how far that would go if I needed the result to get somewhere as quickly as possible. That's going to require an up to the study at this point. Life is full of those things, but we might need this to be in the form of AR 150-1, AR 670-1, of AR 150-1 is heat vex guy. The AR 670s of a heat vex guy is derivative lambda over derivative T, which would be the generals that stand out. People have, for 3 years by name, stand out over that average. Or specifically, I'm looking for a ratio of things within that value, and I want that form of it because it's more beneficial than opposing a nuclear reactor in the stone mill.
So the first thing that you get at level 2
let's take a moment.
is you get the hit points we did, and then you get your Eldritch invocations. You've got a whole selection of them here. There's a couple that I thought might be kind of cool given the nature of your hexblade, but you can do things like agonizing blast.
Well, you'd get a lot of things from private first class to general in there.
Causes them extreme pain. That's probably not how your character's going to roll, given your worry.
The autonomous program is the ledger. It's like, in common examples, it's too much information to kind of be looking at right now, because individually I'd be looking at one. And I'm not trying to set this. It takes time to develop that, which is a pause. These board meetings and promotion boards are absolutely critical to a test that forms a brain scan over eschatology and esoterics, because she's going to be talking about the demon that she's in charge of some gravity in the world and other things like that. But that's to say it plays Bell's equality to something like the board promotions in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Marines. And that's to say China's or Russia's. When you hit that secret passageway and you start moving causal.
A spellcaster, a warlock would use. It's just basically a little blast of eldritch power, right? So you're going to make that more powerful.
Yeah, I'm going to whip it out, pull out a spell, pull out a salt circle, and summon the devil and the lambda and any other demons I need to mark your feet.
When you hit a creature with Eldritch Blast,
the demon core, the nickel chromium, steel around plutonium core, and this kind of difference makes super critical. Out on the table, fine.
Eldritch invocations over here to your powers.
You know, if this chamber went derivative over this as Dungeon Masters, and I said the floor lava right now.
Yeah, we can always look it up. Usually what I do
or the gravity is so strong in this room.
Ooh, not a bad idea.
I forget what the Golden Era drill sergeant says.
Oh, and I get two.
Push!
Armor of Shadows is a big one because you're martial. I mean, that's one that I might.
Well, those are some cool motivations of being able to positively affect that game. It's a definite harassment on energy, but I make you take engineering classes. Failure proof through it for plasticity, deformation. In the form here, just the black body. Number of electromagnetisms you hit. One derivative click over on this crown. Right here, I'll slide the Halo or the Klein bottle or the Toro's coffee cup of the Generals in this hand. You know, it kind of correlates to, again, the coffee stain on the General's desk. How is that the problem with the universe?
So that's just a free mage armor that doesn't.
It's
really
definitely
count
going to
against my
affect.
spell
Now,
slot.
if it's the map
allows you
with
to
that
cast
coffee
magic
stain
on
on,
it.
that's
Does it?
one thing.
Nope, it's
But back to this
will.
click
At will.
over and click over this way. Black body
that's still an
radiation
action,
actually
though, right?
correlates
Yeah, it would
to,
take an action.
oh, so that's a
Okay.
black hole
Free
for
mage
here,
armor.
but this is the sun. This is our sun
So that's our
specifically,
second
Ray
level.
Light
Now,
and Genes.
While you are still learning to be a war leader,
Then
and
Maxwell
your
steps
command
in and
and
says,
everything,
these
we're
two
gonna go to
things
third level
don't
as well.
correlate.
We'll talk a little bit
Space
about
has
that.
that
So,
thing. I hit a
exactly
number and it
level.
just hit a
First, the thing in your
singularity
level,
by
exactly
values.
that, you're going to
I
roll
input the
4d4.
numbers. I have
Okay,
huge
Mama,
power on that
me.
rating,
Okay, not
but
the
it falls
worst.
to a
Not the
singularity
best.
forever.
Five more hit points.
Fusion
So we're at
in that
22
form is going to
now.
give it a spectrum
For
of
those of you
colors.
keeping
It's
track
going to
at
give it a
home.
spectrum
the
of,
big thing
along
you
with
get
there,
as a
that
warlock,
color,
that
a
third
spin,
level is
a
your
flavor,
tactical.
up,
And
up,
this is
up,
after
down,
being
down, up,
observant
and
of
down,
the
down.
Hexblade.
And so I gotta be able to probe each direction. I gotta say I push this one forward, I pull this one back, and I have a straight line of 7,000 K, or our sun 6,000 roughly K in terms of temperature. It makes it a yellow giant instead of a blue super high. Well, within spectrum, blue is in the range, 7,000 K, and I might catch something with spin, or a
So
state in that
immediately
universe
I'm
where
going
those
to
original
Pact of the Blade, just to
singularity
stay
values,
super basic
or a
and
singularity
on
value
track.
that
Well,
correlates
but-
to
yeah,
something
makes
that
sense. But I
levels
also
that
am
curve
wondering-
in some
this
way
is part of character
to
creation.
say
What
it goes
other-
up,
what are the
the
other
particle
party
is set
members?
there,
I'm
temperatures is the
consider,
number,
like,
X,
there
Y,
are, like,
into
too
the
many
system,
spell-
and this
other
correlates
spell
definitely with
classes or
people,
whatever.
because if
So
I
interesting.
indicate
So
this
it's,
with
it's an
K,
important question.
sigma
I think the way
sum
that we're doing
1,
character creation for this
or
particular
0,
adventure, 'cause we have to be separate.
maybe you
Your
know what's
lives are
coming in,
going to
maybe you
step
don't. You
forward
don't know what the
into place where you
interrogation
all
is
come
about
together.
here.
Oh, so
And
it
you
doesn't
won't when you walk out in the woods
I think
either.
it matters for party balance, as you're saying.
Genesis.
As a conscientious player, I think it matters, but specifically
Patrol.
for this campaign.
Roman 7 days.
You,
Starts
I
with
didn't
sticks.
expect to say
Now,
this to you,
I
but
can tell
here
you
we
under
are.
that value, within 7 days,
So
only
it's
having
it's an important
sticks
thing
and
as we play
6
together,
people.
But I think for this case, I want
I'm
to
going to
really be about,
need
this is the part
some
before you get to the
heavy-duty
city.
fundamentals
Okay,
on what
so
this is.
what
So
appeals to you?
either you have to be able
I mean,
to write
my
them
otherworldly
or
patron,
recall
which
those.
I will have to
And
come
it's
up with a
nothing
name for
special.
her.
It could be somebody's
She's
name
gonna
just
give me Pact of the
arbitrarily.
Blade
You
for
understand, like
So
I
now
understand
this
vector
makes
sense for her.
positions, but
Yes.
you understand the
And
heart
you can
rate
use this
monitor
spell
to
now
me
to
telling me
create
this
a
on
pact
this
weapon
L
in
bracket
your
right here.
hand. Basically,
Between
the
this,
weapon that you
this,
chose, I
and
think
this,
we
and the connections,
flail
anything
is
else
your
in
main
here,
weapon, right? So
how the
cool.
G
So
works
really
and all
seems to
this,
flail
but
is a stick
but
with a chain and
essentially,
then
and I
either
don't
like
want
a
to get too
ball or
heavy
whatever.
with you on it about
Yeah.
emotional
Put a cool
contagion and
weapon.
Which
dropping
I've
a
been
shilling in a
reading some
beer to
RA
take
Salvage
somebody
for it,
and
and-
hit a machine gun
and
nest
I just
at
ran into
18
a
years
character who,
old.
like, slides into battle, and I'm gonna totally do this. Gets on her back and starts kicking.
These are
and,
things
like,
that you have.
and,
These are
like, using her
calculations you
weapons so
must
that
understand.
It's gonna be super inspiring.
So with the Pact of the Blade, you can make that weapon appear in your